Welcome to The Record. I'm Tom Basile in for Greta Van Susteren. Breaking news this afternoon, a deadly shooting of National Guard troops near the White House. Our correspondent is near the scene, and we will check in with him in just a moment for the latest on this horrific incident. Also, it is the day before Thanksgiving, and President Trump has something big now to be thankful for, a legal win in the chaotic Georgia election RICO case pushed by DA Fani Willis. You may remember she was disqualified from the case, and now it has been thrown out. So why the dismissal? We're going to tell you later this hour. Also ahead, the airports and the roads could be a bit messy, especially in the Midwest, where heavy snow already has caused some pileups. And Americans could spend about $1 trillion this holiday season, but fears remain about the state of the U.S. economy. We're going to dig into the data for you in just a bit. Plus, our outrage of the day, it involves DEI in kids' classrooms, how some schools are pushing to so-called decolonize Thanksgiving. We'll tell you what that's all about. And with the year-end holidays officially kicking off, how to stay spiritually healthy and embrace the season. You're not going to want to miss that message. But first, we are following some breaking news. 2 National Guard members have been shot in Washington, D.C. The shooting happened near the White House, just a couple of blocks away. We have just learned from West Virginia Governor Patrick Morrisey that the troops were from his state and that both have died from their injuries. White House correspondent Mike Carter joins me now with the very latest. He is near the scene of the shooting.
Yeah, Tom, good afternoon. Obviously, nothing that we could have expected for a very quiet day at the White House today. We got word, we heard a lot of commotion, sirens blasting, Secret Service members rushing away from the White House shortly after 2:30 this afternoon. We are just about a block west of the White House. Right around this building here is the Eisenhower building, and about 2 blocks north of us here, we're on 17th Street. And this would be, well, 2 blocks south of I Street here, just west of the White House. And that is where 2 West Virginia National Guard troops were shot. And as you just heard Tom Basile say there, West Virginia's governor today, Patrick Morrisey, confirming that they have now died. A suspect is in custody. His conditions currently unknown. West Virginia's governor saying today, it is with great sorrow that we can confirm both members of the West Virginia National Guard who were shot today in Washington, D.C. have passed away from their injuries. These brave West Virginians lost their lives in the service of their country. We are in ongoing contact with federal officials, and the investigation continues. So this is obviously the worst nightmare scenario, and something that for a while now, ever since President Trump issued the National Guard order, and we're going to follow Secret Service's guide here as we walk behind the yellow tape here, the emergency tape. And again, we're about a couple blocks south of the scene here, Tom. This was a very quiet day at the White House. President Trump, First Lady Melania Trump, they're down in Florida in Mar-a-Lago. They left last night. And for much of the day today, you had a very, almost no one at the White House. Nobody in the briefing room, very few White House aides on the property, and very few reporters. But again, in the 2 o'clock hour this afternoon, all hell broke loose here on just west of Pennsylvania Avenue and 17th Street at the White House. President Trump responding today. This is a tweet that is now old because we now know that those 2 National Guardsmen have died of their injuries. President Trump saying today the animal that shot the 2 National Guardsmen, with both being critically wounded, again, those National Guard troops now confirmed dead, is also, well, let's pick it up here. God bless our great National Guard and all of our military and law enforcement. These are truly great people. I, as President of the United States, and everyone associated with the office of the presidency, am with you. Kristi Noem, Homeland Security Secretary, again, a tweet that now is too old to ring true. Please join me in praying for the 2 National Guardsmen who were just shot moments ago in Washington, D.C. Kash Patel, FBI Director, saying the FBI is engaged in assisting with the investigation in Washington, D.C. after National Guard members were shot this afternoon. Please pray for them, and we will update with more information as we are able. Of course, President Trump spending the following few days at Mar-a-Lago for Thanksgiving. With all of the news coming out about Ukraine, James Comey, Letitia James, no one could have expected a scene to unfold like this at the White House today. It is still eerily quiet here just west of the White House. And again, this crime scene, Tom, taking place just northwest of Lafayette Park. That's just north of the White House. And again, 2 National Guardsmen, both confirmed to be from West Virginia, have died of their injuries today after being shot by a suspect. A nightmare scenario, and we are sure to hear more from the White House as the night rolls on. Tom?
White House correspondent Mike Carter, thank you very much for that report. Let's bring in now former DHS senior advisor and former Secret Service agent Charles Marino. He joins me now. Charles, let me get your initial reactions to the incident and to its proximity to the White House. Though it does not appear that the president or any of his staff or the White House itself was clearly a target here, and the response that we've seen so far.
Yeah, of course, everyone should be both saddened and outraged at the fact that we just had 2 National Guardsmen assassinated in the nation's capital outside the perimeter of the White House. This is unbelievable. It should not be happening. We all know deep down why it's happening, and it has to do with this irresponsible rhetoric coming from the left, which, those of us with common sense have been begging for it to stop, and it's been falling on deaf ears. And unfortunately, that rhetoric falls to some people that are willing to act. We don't have a lot of information on this individual in custody right now, or if it's tied to a greater threat against law enforcement and the National Guard. But again, we should be outraged about this, and it needs to stop.
Yeah, you call conservatives a fascist, and it's only a matter of time until a prominent conservative gets assassinated. We saw that. And then you try to frame intentionally the National Guard as sort of stormtroopers, and it's only a matter of time until somebody tries to go after them if this was a targeted targeted attack on the National Guard members who have done such a remarkable job in Washington, D.C. Charles, can you talk to us about some of the misinformation about the National Guard presence in these cities as part of the effort on the part of the federal government to do something about crime? Because there has been a lot of misinformation. Yeah. What do they do and what don't they do?
Yeah, they're primarily there to be additional eyes and ears for law enforcement who still have primary responsibility for making arrests.
That's right.
I have yet to see from the left a photo of a National Guardsman putting the handcuffs on somebody as they portray to the American people, that they're out there rounding up those in the country illegally, that they're out there rounding up criminals. That's not what their job is. They're primarily there as a deterrent and as an additional mechanism to provide information to law enforcement and provide a high visibility sense of safety and security to those living in the Washington, D.C. area and other sanctuary cities where they've been deployed. So this misinformation, again, combined with the rhetoric, is what's leading to these situations. And look, Tom, we can't deny the statistics. The threats against law enforcement are astronomical right now. They're in the thousands of a percentage increase, whether we're looking at assaults or just threats being made. And so, law enforcement's got a tough enough job. They've got a big enough target on their back as it is with the job that they do each and every day. We don't need those from the left that have never served or had the nerve to take on one of these occupations to rile people up even more.
Yeah, it's so important for Americans to realize that the National Guard protects law enforcement officers and and federal facilities, but they are not there necessarily in a law enforcement capacity. They're just the most visible of all of the folks that are being deployed, and that makes them even the biggest target, unfortunately, as we have seen here potentially today. Charles Marino, thank you very much for stepping in with us. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Tom.
All right, moving on. It is a very busy travel day and some severe weather that we are watching. Heavy snow and blizzard conditions could complicate travel for Thanksgiving. Snow expected in parts of the Midwest, Great Lakes, and the Northeast this week. At the airports, TSA expected to screen, get this, 19.3 million travelers between Monday of this week and Sunday. According to FlightAware, there were about 100 cancellations and 3,500 delays as of this afternoon, but the FAA saying this will be the busiest air travel holiday in some 15 years. National correspondent Joe Moeller now joins me from Los Angeles International Airport. Not a bad assignment though. It looks fairly calm there, and of course it's 80 degrees outside, so not bad, Joe.
Yeah, I can't really complain about the weather here in the LA area. Sunny skies and it's just perfect outside. But here inside the airport, traffic has been on and off. I mean, it was busy a little earlier today, but as we get later in the day, it seems people are getting to their destination, trying to get home to a grandma's house for Turkey Day come tomorrow. But weather is causing some problems for people in other parts of the country. People here at LAX were met with something else, a protest. Take a look at this video from a few hours ago. This was here at Terminal 7 at LAX. Airport Workers Union protesting the day before Thanksgiving, demanding a new contract. Travelers had to walk through the demonstration to reach ticketing and security, but flights don't appear to be impacted by this. The FAA says this is one of the busiest travel weeks in 15 years, with 360,000 flights and nearly 20 million TSA screenings through next Tuesday. The good news, no government shutdown impacts. The bad news for some folks, the weather. Rain, snow, and severe storms could disrupt thousands of flights today. With blizzard conditions in the northern plains and upper Great Lakes and heavy storms across the south, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says travel is back to normal and urges Americans to travel civilly this week.
If you are traveling by air, I would just ask that you stay in touch with your airline or update your apps so you know if your flight has been delayed or moved at all as you're planning to come to the airport.
A lot of people are deciding to hop in their car. AAA projects a record 73 million Americans will hit the road for the holiday. Google Maps data shows today's traffic will peak from 1 to 3 p.m. and Thanksgiving Day will be busiest from noon to 3. So a lot of people out on the roads right now. People flying out say they were concerned after the lengthy government shutdown.
Our grandparents definitely were.
Yeah. What were they saying?
They were just worried about like flights and stuff like that, and with like the shutdown and everything, like not running as efficiently as it usually would.
You just hear a lot of stories of, like 10% of flights are going to get canceled. Is your flight going to be one of those? And there's just kind of a lot of unknown.
Well, now having grown up here in the Los Angeles area, I know usually the Tuesday night before Thanksgiving, it's really busy out on the road. So last night was pretty horrific, I must say. But today, going to be another busy day. Just check the traffic cams. Going in and out of Las Vegas is also busy out there as well. So keep that in mind here today. But as we get into the evening, it should clear up. But here at the airport, looks okay. I'll send it back to you.
All right, steady as she goes. So far, so good. And who would have thought spending Thanksgiving in Las Vegas? But I guess that could be pretty fun. All right, Joe Moeller, appreciate you. Thank you. Coming up, a big win for President Donald Trump out of the state of Georgia. That when the record continues.
Donald Trump's second presidency is changing America. Now you need to watch Rob Schmitt tonight on President Trump's next big move. Then tune into Rob Finnerty taking on Trump's critics. President Trump says he watches Newsmax. You should too. Download our Newsmax app to watch us anytime, anywhere. Millions are making the switch to Newsmax. Be one.
A peace plan for Gaza. For the plan to advance, Hamas must disarm. Instead,
tonight, terrifying images emerging from Gaza. Videos show Hamas-linked gunmen carrying out a public execution as they return to the streets.
Hamas on a rampage, executing Palestinians. Bloody crackdown, spreading terror. For freedom, not terror. Hamas must go.
The Ridge wallet is iconic at this point, but I'm just going to speak facts here. It's slim, it's RFID blocking, it's awesome, it's comfortable, I love it. I carry it every day. And then every wallet at ridge.com has like an unlimited lifetime warranty, so you don't have to worry about it falling apart. Check it out at ridge.com.
Hello, everyone. It's President Donald J. Trump, and it's Trump time. Check out this red beauty. It's one of my new watches. Wear it proudly on your wrist, and everyone will know exactly what it's for, who it represents. It's really going to be something special. It's for your favorite president. Get your watch today at gettrumpwatches.com. Please make a great gift. It's Trump time.
It's the Stackable Savings Sale at Cabinets to Go. Discover quality cabinets, countertops, accessories, and more. Plus, watch as your dream kitchen comes to life with a free 3D design. Don't wait, the Stackable Savings Sale ends soon. Cabinets to Go, designed to wow.
Well, it finally happened. Today, a Georgia prosecutor officially dropped that sprawling racketeering case against President Donald Trump and others accused of attempting to overturn the 2020 presidential election. Remember, the one Democrats brought to prevent him from winning the White House last year. The charges were filed on August 14, 2023 by Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis, who was then booted from the case over corruption. Former United States Attorney for the Northern District of Alabama, Jay Town, joins me, as well as Politico White House and Washington reporter Daniel Lippman. All right, Jay, I think you probably called this quite some time ago. Let's start with you. Democrats cobbled together this sort of Frankenstein case for political purposes, but did today's announcement come as any surprise?
Not at all, and frankly, these indictments never should have happened. When Skandalakis was assigned himself these cases, we talked about this about 10 days ago on this very program when it happened, and Skandalakis had actually dismissed a similar charge against the lieutenant governor of the state of Georgia, who was indicted by Fani Willis, and because, again, of her unethical conduct, she was withdrawn from that case by the courts. He was assigned, and he dismissed the case. So there's really nothing different here. Turns out the best moments for Fani Willis were that ice cream social with the special grand jury foreman, and it went downhill from there because of her unethical conduct. And the defense lawyers in these cases really deserve the credit for bringing all of that to light.
Absolutely. Quick follow-up for you. Do you think Fani Willis cobbled this together, or do you think that the Democratic National Committee fed her this and sort of gave her the assignment to bring this sprawling RICO case?
Yeah, I don't think she has the intellectual capability to put this together. This was, all those visits that she and her boyfriend had with the White House counsel's office, with members of the Democratic National Committee and the Democratic Party, this was very well coordinated and funneled to her rather than her coming up with it on her own.
Right. Daniel, the FBI now requesting interviews with 6 Democrat veterans and lawmakers who urged troops to refuse illegal orders. Hakeem Jeffries, the top Democrat in the White House, saying that those lawmakers shouldn't cooperate. So here's my view on this, guys. Democrats baited Trump. Trump took the bait, said some stuff on social media that was, legally not well-founded. And now everybody is talking about this. It's all over the media. Daniel, who's winning the PR battle right now?
I'd say Democrats by an inch, because this is kind of good news for them, actually, for their own political careers. Now their name reputation name ID has gone up. I'm sure they're gaining a lot of Twitter followers. They're fundraising off of all of this, and these interviews are not going to actually happen. And so this helps further their career. And for Trump, he gets another headline of, oh, these Democrats, they're going against the law. The FBI should look into this. And this also may help Kash Patel who is kind of in the line of fire. There was an MSN Now story yesterday about how Trump and the White House have considered getting rid of him. They denied that story.
Absolutely. I almost expected Mark Kelly to declare for president on Jimmy Kimmel the other night. Real quick for me, Jay, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt's nephew's mother has been detained by U.S. immigration agents in Revere, Massachusetts. She's now being held in an ICE facility in Louisiana. Leavitt has not addressed this publicly, but how do you see this? How do you see this playing out from a legal standpoint? She claims the woman does claim that she was protected by DACA.
Yeah, it turns out DACA doesn't allow you to continue to stay in this country if the United States chooses to remove you. And it turns out that this woman, who is no blood relation to Caroline Leavitt, she's the mother of a woman who had a baby with Caroline's brother. They were never married. So this isn't some bloodline relationship. But what I can tell you is that, this woman barely overstayed her visa by about 26 years. These are the type of people that President Trump promised to remove from this country, and he's doing it. And whether it's Caroline Leavitt's brother's mother, my baby mama mother, they're gone. And that's exactly what we voted for, and that's how legally it will play out. DACA does not protect people from deportation.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. Jay Town, Daniel Lippman, thank you both for being with us, and happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
To you too.
Coming up, we take a look at how U.S. markets closed heading into the Thanksgiving holiday and the state of the economy, that when the record continues.
I think the biggest selling point for Newsmax is we're not doing the same boring, predictable news. You flip through the other channels, you got these high-paid hosts. They say the same thing every night. You know what they're going to say. It's a little different.
There are only a few men I'd trust with my life. Two of them built this wallet. I've known the guys behind Proof for nearly 20 years, and we've been through hell and back together. When they told me they were building the wallet, I just said, bill me now, I'm in. This isn't some fashion piece. This isn't just some trend. These wallets are a direct reflection of the kind of men who built it. It's built to last, built to function, and designed to carry everything you need and more. If anything happens to it, they'll take care of it. No questions, no fine print. If you knew the guys who created this wallet, you wouldn't carry anything else. Go check them out, because they built this thing right.
Hey, I'm Mike Hammond from Signal Relief. You know the holidays are meant to be about family, laughter, and taking things slow. But when you're in pain, it's hard to enjoy any of it. I know because my back has made life difficult for me. But that's why I love the Signal Relief patch. It helped me enjoy the holidays again. It helped me enjoy my family again. I've given this patch as a gift to friends, family, and even strangers in pain because I know it works. In a recent study, over 85% of people felt relief. It really doesn't matter where you hurt because the patch works, and it comes with a money-back guarantee. For a limited time, we're bringing back our largest discount ever, 50% off. So get a Signal Relief patch today. Trust me when I tell you, the patch works.
Not again.
Your cold is coming! Your cold is coming!
Thanks, Revere.
We really need to keep Zycam in the house.
Only if you want to shorten your cold. When you feel a cold coming, shorten it with Zycam.
Now it's a great time to play Solitaire Grand Harvest and enjoy a new world of solitaire. Brr, a cold world. This Christmas, discover all the holiday fun with exciting features from Santa. Like our winter tournaments, festive mini-games, and challenging levels. Ever built a farm in the snow? 'Tis the season to turn classic into fantastic. So download Solitaire Grand Harvest for free and see for yourself.
Drop is finally here. Drop delivers the weight loss benefits of GLP-1 injections in easy-to-use oral drops, no needles.
That's right. The two big drawbacks with weight loss injections are high costs and weekly injections. Drop is flavorless and odorless, so you can just add it to water or your favorite beverage. Drop offers other advantages over injections too. With Drop, you can personalize your dosage based on your weight loss goals.
And because you add Drop to any liquid, there's no concern about injection site infections, bruising, or dosage confusion.
Drop is the easier, safer, cost-effective alternative to help you achieve your weight loss goals without the needles.
Can't find it anywhere? The Wellness Company has it. No consultation needed. Simply order online and use promo code SLIM to save $100. Visit dropthepounds.com/slim. That's promo code SLIM at dropthepounds.com/slim.
All right, we are continuing to follow our breaking news this afternoon, the shooting of those 2 National Guard members outside near the White House in Washington. West Virginia's Governor Patrick Morrisey is now walking back his original post on X saying that the 2 National Guard troops that were shot in D.C. have died. Governor Morrisey posting on X just moments ago that we are receiving conflicting reports about the condition of our 2 Guard members and will provide additional updates once we receive more complete information. Our prayers are with these brave service members and their families. End quote. We will go back to the White House and our correspondent Mike Carter, who's near the scene there, in just a few moments. Meanwhile, U.S. markets closing in the green heading into Thanksgiving. The Nasdaq seeing the biggest jump, closing up 0.82%. This as consumer confidence, however, hit its lowest point since April. The Conference Board saying that its consumer confidence index dropped to 88.7 in November. That is the lowest rating in 7 months. The consumer confidence index is a key measure of how optimistic or pessimistic households feel about the economy. For more on this, let's bring in financial markets analyst Mitch Feierstein and partner and co-founder at Flynn Zito Capital Management, Doug Flynn. Mitch, let's go to you. We hear a lot of good vibes on the economy coming from the White House, but why is consumer confidence down heading into the holidays?
I think that there's been a lot of positive signs in the stock market. The stock market is actually booming. It's been very volatile. Volatility has returned to all the markets. Consumer confidence is down because the AI boom has caused a bit of a bubble, and that's what's ignited the economy and made numbers look better than they seem. I think the employment numbers were pretty dire, and that's why the Fed will have to cut the discount rate again in December, which I've said from the beginning. They were behind the curve on it. They've got to catch up, and a couple cuts coming early next year as well.
Doug, the market really has been a roller coaster, and there has been this talk of the AI bubble. What do you think are the biggest concerns about the economy right now?
You got a number of concerns, mostly I think having to do with, certainly to the confidence number, just the jobs picture. It's not so much that new people are losing their jobs. That's not it. It's the continuous jobless claims numbers. If you look at them, they've been rising, and we're approaching 2 million. And what that means is that once you lose your job, it's harder to find a replacement job. And so I think that's weighing into people's concerns about the economy. And then also we're looking at not a very good picture, in fact, a pretty weak picture for graduating people from college, and that job market's not looking good. So, people on the lower end are really having a tough time. It's getting masked by the people on the higher end who are still spending. Mm-hmm. And so, but when you look in there, there are some points that they really do need to focus on lowering rates to get that job market into a better situation than it's been. Inflation may be a little bit more under control, but jobs are still weakening, and they need to attack that.
Mitch, affordability, a major concern for Americans. And I've made the case that people can't really rely solely on Washington to solve that problem. It's a state and local government problem, and it's a personal choice problem as well. But what should Trump and the White House focus on if you were giving them some advice?
Well, if I were to give them advice, I would say the best thing they could do is go after the banks and say, hey, guys, we're putting a cap on the interest rate you can charge consumers on credit card debt. Because credit card debt, if you look at the Federal Reserve's recent report, all-time high. Put a cap, the banks borrow from the Fed at 4% or less, and they charge up to 30% interest to clients who are jammed and have to put stuff on credit cards. If you bring that rate down, it's going to help. The Federal Reserve has to cut rates as well and keep it going to put some grease in the wheels of the economy. So the credit card thing.
All right, guys. I agree with that. I think that's a great idea. Guys, I'm sorry. We've got to cut it short because of our breaking news. Mitch Feierstein and Doug Flynn, thank you for being here, and have a happy Thanksgiving.
You too.
The talks to end Russia's war against Ukraine picking up some momentum. U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff will be headed to Moscow next week to meet with Russian dictator Vladimir Putin. President Trump hopeful about the negotiations. He says Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky also wants to meet, but the president wants to make sure a deal is near done before that happens. Trump also acknowledging Ukraine is probably going to have to cut some of its losses to make a deal work. Former United States Ambassador to Ukraine, William Taylor, joins me now. Ambassador, it's always a privilege to have you with us. A lot of back and forth on this plan. Zelensky perhaps seeming open to much of it. Where do you think things really stand at the moment?
Tom, I think you're right. I think the Americans and the Ukrainians and the Europeans are pretty united behind this 19-point plan. Now, this is the revised plan that has now come out over the last couple of days. You will remember, you reported the 28-point plan, which was drafted, as we now know, by the Russians and sent to Steve Witkoff for his modifications, and then widely disparaged and widely slammed for being too pro-Russian, which is understandable since the Russians basically wrote it. So the administration went to the Europeans and went to the Ukrainians, and Secretary Rubio did a good job of pulling that information in to come up with this 19-point plan, which is, as I say, the consensus, the good ideas coming from the Ukrainians, Americans, and the Europeans at this point.
So Witkoff is going to meet with Vladimir Putin next week. Now, given the fact that what you just said, the 28-point plan went over like a lead balloon, now there seems to be some broad agreement on what's left of that. What is Witkoff's mission here? How would you suggest he handle this?
Witkoff has a hard job. He's going to have a very hard job. He's going to have to present the U.S. position, this 19-point plan, and look for ways to pressure, push, encourage, persuade Putin to agree. It's going to be hard. And that's where President Trump comes in. President Trump can support the Witkoff mission by putting pressure on Putin. And he's starting to do that. 2 weeks ago, he put sanctions on the two largest Russian oil companies, Rosneft and Lukoil, and that's already had an effect of reducing the amount of funds going into the Russian treasury to enable them to pursue this war. So that's the kind of pressure that Witkoff's going to need to be able to get Putin on board for this 19-point plan.
Okay, real quickly for me, a lot of Americans are very concerned about the hundreds of thousands of children that were abducted, potentially tens of thousands, could be more, children abducted by Russia. Each one of those was a war crime. In that 19-point plan, is this at all on the table to try to repatriate these kids to their families?
It is, Tom. You'll be happy to know that this is the highest priority. There's no higher priority for the Ukrainians, and the Americans and Europeans have supported that. And the return of those children and other prisoners of war, other civilians, that is in there and should be and is part of that plan. Is a very high priority for the Ukrainians, Americans, and Europeans.
Ambassador Bill Taylor, always appreciate your insights, sir. Thank you very much. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Tom. You too.
All right, it is time for our Outrage of the Day alert. Universities and school districts across the United States calling to decolonize Thanksgiving. Yes, you heard that right. Left-wing schools are incorporating DEI initiatives into the holiday to push back on its, quote, colonial roots. Here are just a few examples. The University of California, Davis hosted a Zoom event called Decolonizing Thanksgiving in the Classroom. Washington University in St. Louis put out a press release promoting an event that, quote, highlights and honors the way different cultures recognize and understand Thanksgiving. And the University of Massachusetts, well, that school refers to Thanksgiving as, quote, a day of mourning. The left tries to destroy everything it touches, folks. Even still, Marxists, enjoy your tofurkey anyway. Coming up on the record, X has revealed a massive foreign media misinformation campaign targeting specific countries. A full breakdown of that next.
You know, folks, I thank God for my wonderful wife, my kids, my country, the greatest nation ever. And Americans like you who believe in the truth, the Chris Salcedo Show will never stop fighting for you.
The Chris Salcedo Show, for the news you need to know.
Hey, I'm Daniel, one of the founders of Ridge. My dad and I realized that most wallets are falling apart, stuffed to the max, and barely fit in your back pocket. So we set out to create something better. Ridge is built to last a lifetime and is the perfect balance of modern style and durability. Find yours at ridge.com.
WeatherTech presents
Deck the halls with gifts so happy. La 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 la. Made right here so nothing's crappy. La 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 la. Razor measure, perfect fitting. La 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 la. Auto, home, and even pets too. Perfect is for me, and perfect is for you.
Happy Holidays start at WT.com.
For pain in multiple spots like here, here, or here, Salon Pas patches stick firmly and remove comfortably once your pain is gone. Salon Pas. It's good medicine.
Balance of Nature is a supplement of 47 ingredients of whole fruits, vegetables, spices, and fibers.
When Balance of Nature came out, patients began asking me about it. Hey, doc, have you tried this? So I tried it, and it's been a great experience.
I've been taking Balance of Nature for at least 3-4 years now. I really can't imagine not having it a part of my daily routine.
When you're younger, your mother would say, eat your fruits and vegetables. But as you get older, that sometimes gets shoved to the side, and Balance of Nature has been one of the best supplements.
It's fruits and vegetables in our daily diet, and an obtainable way to get that every day without fail.
Balance of Nature is a great product. I take it, I recommend it to my patients. It's not the only thing you need, but I practice what I preach. I eat well, take care of myself with exercise.
It's just so easy and it's so good. Order it, you read the bottles, Balance of Nature, you smell it and it's real. It smells like fruits and vegetables.
When you open a fruit capsule of Balance of Nature, it tastes like fruit. It smells like fruit.
I know that you need a balance of fruits and vegetables. I mean, my grandma told me that, my mom told me that. What's there to lose in taking Balance of Nature?
I told my wife I'm youthing, I'm not aging. Balance of Nature is a big part of that.
I feel terrific day to day. I have to do a lot of things to maintain that level, and I trust Balance of Nature because I trust the simplicity of what it is.
Start your journey with Balance of Nature supplements today. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer to get 35% off your first set with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. That's 1-800-246-8751. Don't wait. Now's the time to take action. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code Newsmax.
Well, a little birdie told me rates are taking a dip, which means that dream home won't be there forever. Don't let someone else beat you to it. Start your search today. Make it real with Realtor.com.
And we are continuing to follow that breaking news out of Washington, D.C. and the condition of the 2 National Guard troops who were shot near the White House. Our White House correspondent, Mike Carter, is back with us with the very latest. Mike.
Yeah, Tom, good afternoon again. We are here on Pennsylvania Avenue, just about a block and a half removed from this crime scene this afternoon where 2 National Guard troops, both from West Virginia, were shot by a suspect. There are conflicting reports from the governor of West Virginia this afternoon, who initially said that both of those Guard troops had died. A few minutes ago, the governor pulling that back, saying that his office had received conflicting reports. Those troops sent to a local hospital, as well as a suspect who is in custody right now. The suspect also in critical condition. So right now we are awaiting updates from D.C. Metro Police as well as the mayor, Muriel Bowser, on the conditions of all three of these people. I'm going to get out of the way and allow our camera to pan in a little bit. Again, Tom, we're on Pennsylvania Avenue, just about a block west of the White House, right just north of the Eisenhower building. Just to the left of where you're seeing these emergency vehicles is where this crime scene took place. 2 National Guardsmen shot by a suspect on the streets of Washington this afternoon, shortly after 2:30 in the afternoon. We did see a number of emergency vehicles rushing up 17th Street, just adjacent to the White House this afternoon. You had a lot of law enforcement running to the scene. We were trying to figure out what was going on. We asked Secret Service personnel at the White House who confirmed to us that those 2 National Guardsmen had been shot. Today, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth saying he spoke to President Trump. Remember, back in August, the president deploying 800 National Guard troops on the streets of Washington, a very controversial thing to do at the time. Today, Pete Hegseth saying President Trump has advised him to now employ an additional 500 National Guard troops in reaction to this shooting today on the streets of Washington. Vice President Vance speaking at Fort Campbell in Kentucky this afternoon, sending his thoughts and prayers to American service members. And really, one day ahead of Thanksgiving, no one could have expected this quiet day at the White House to turn into this scene that's unfolding and will continue to throughout the evening. Of course, the president, he is with the First Lady down at Mar-a-Lago. We're expected to be there through the end of the week, through the Thanksgiving Day holiday. We're awaiting word on the White House if President Trump plans to come back now ahead of time, whether he will now come back tonight, tomorrow, and in advance of what was expected to be a quiet couple days for the president. A lot on his plate, obviously, with the war in Ukraine, kind of potentially coming to an end, but this scene that's happened here on the streets of Washington tonight really has sent shockwaves across this city. It is very quiet here. You do have a lot of police still on the scene here, and again, we are awaiting word on the condition of these 2 National Guard members from West Virginia, whether they were initially said to be in critical condition. You had the governor of West Virginia saying that those 2 members had died, and now retracting that statement. So awaiting word on authorities tonight, Tom, but very, very sad news just one day ahead of Thanksgiving. Tom?
Yeah, we are hearing that there is a podium that has been set up near your location there, and we will continue to keep an eye on the story throughout the course of the evening and tonight. Mike Carter, thank you very much. Appreciate you. Now, you may have noticed X has a new geolocation tool, and it's exposing where some influential accounts operate. Some of these accounts have been going after Israel and Ukraine. As detailed in our web article here on Newsmax.com, many of them pose as supporters of President Trump. For example, this account's name is Trump is My President, but it's based in Macedonia. Times of Gaza, which has nearly 1 million followers and documents the war, is actually based out of East Asia in the Pacific. Joining me now, IDF reservist and influencer Noy Leyb. Noy, this is a massive problem that is meant to drive misinformation and shape narratives all around the globe. Tell us more about the pervasiveness of all of this.
I mean, us in Israel who have been posting, whether it's me from the ground in Gaza trying to show the truth, or other people in Israel trying to speak to the world, we knew this all along. But these accounts were trusted by millions of people around the world who didn't know what's going on, and to have so much influence about, of people suffering in Gaza and asking for donations, but actually being based in some coffee shop halfway across the world. It just, it's crazy to think how much of a coordinated disinformation network was built here.
Mm-hmm. Now, as our article states, a number of high-engagement anti-Israel accounts claiming to be MAGA voters are there. They're designed to fracture the movement and undermine Trump and the administration and his support for Prime Minister Netanyahu. They were flagged as coming from places like Turkey, Africa, and Asia. Who do you think is funding all of this? Who's behind all of this?
I mean, there's a couple, places that come to mind, but it's the classic. It's our enemies, the enemies that we've been fighting all along. And I really think that it's like a lot of accounts that were anti-Israel also came out of Iran, and those accounts were very interesting because they were posing as both left-wing and right-wing Israelis, and they were here to just create division and shape public opinion with their agenda. So I think it's the enemies that we've been fighting all along, the people who don't believe in Western values, who don't believe in Judeo-Christian values, and the ones who want to bring extremism to America, which unfortunately we're seeing in some places.
Yeah. It's been estimated that by 2030, some 80% of all online content will either be fake or manipulated. How do we stop this type of thing from happening? Your quick thoughts on that.
Listen, I think that just because someone has millions of followers and someone is showing you that they are suffering or whatever, like we saw from the accounts in Gaza, it doesn't mean that it's true. You have to double check and triple check everything. Actually, right now, every piece of information that you see on social media is secondhand or third hand or fourth hand. There isn't a lot of information, a lot of news that comes firsthand. So I think you really have to triple check. And even if you triple check, it's still not might be the correct source. So I'm Leyb. I post out of Gaza when I'm in uniform. I'm showing people exactly who I am, what I am. I'm not scared for them to find out. But when things don't seem real, always question it and double check.
All right, good words. Leyb, thank you very much for that. All right, we're going to continue to follow our breaking news. And we want to take you now to a news conference from D.C. officials about the shooting of those National Guard troops. That is Mayor Muriel Bowser standing next to FBI Director Kash Patel there, and they are getting ready to start. Let's listen.
They'll tell us. They're moving people.
Are we ready?
Ready. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kash Patel, FBI Director. We're here to brief you on the tragic events that happened today at approximately 2:15 local time in Washington, D.C., where two of our brave members of the National Guard and the Department of War were brazenly attacked in a horrendous act of violence. They were shot. They're in critical condition. As you can see behind me, we have assembled the full force of both the federal and state and local law enforcement agencies to bring bear all of our resources to make sure we find the perpetrators responsible for this heinous act. And make no mistake, they will be brought to justice. Since this is an assault on a federal law enforcement officer, this will be treated at the federal level as an assault on a federal law enforcement officer. The FBI will lead out on that mission with our interagency partners, to include the Department of Homeland Security, Secret Service, ATF, DEA, and we're thankful for the mayor's assistance in this matter, the Metropolitan Police Department and their skills in investigating homicides and gun shootings in this city is exceptional. We will work together collaboratively because this is a matter of national security, because it's a matter of pride. President Trump has been informed. We've been in contact with the White House. We will shortchange the American public with no resources to make sure we find and safeguard our nation's capital right here in Washington, D.C., and bring anyone responsible for this heinous act of violence to justice. I would lastly like to add to the American public and the world, please send your prayers to those brave warriors who are in critical condition and their families. They are here serving our country. They are here protecting everyday Americans and citizens around the world in our nation's capital. They are the heroes of this day, and we must remember them on this day and every day, and their families and the sacrifice they have made. I will now turn it over to Chief Carroll of the Metropolitan Police Department. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeff Carroll. I'm the Executive Assistant Chief here at the Metropolitan Police Department. At approximately 2:15 this afternoon, members of the D.C. National Guard were on high visibility patrols in the area of 17th and I Street Northwest when a suspect came around the corner, raised his arm with a firearm, and discharged it at the National Guard members. The National Guard members, there were other members that were in the area. they were able to, after some back and forth, able to subdue the individual and bring them into custody. Within moments, members of law enforcement in the area were also able to assist and bring that individual into custody. At this time, as the director mentioned, the National Guard members are being treated at a local hospital. DC Fire and EMS responded to the scene to provide first aid for those individuals and transport them to a local hospital. The suspect in this case was also transported for treatment at a local hospital. Madam Mayor?
Thank you. I'm Muriel Bowser. I'm the mayor of Washington, D.C., and I, too, want to send my thoughts and prayers to the families of the guardsmen and to the guardsmen who are in critical condition in a local hospital. I am joined by members and leadership from the D.C. National Guard, from the West Virginia National Guard, United States Secret Service, Deputy Mayor Pia, Fire Chief Donnelly, and Metro's General Manager Randy Clark, and we join with the FBI Director in ensuring that MPD investigates, the U.S. Attorney prosecutes this case to the fullest extent of the law. I've had the opportunity to brief U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi, who was speaking to the president when I called, as well as the United States Attorney Pirro, who assured me that this case will have her office's complete attention.
Mayor, was there any other suspect?
Chief.
Sure. So no, at this time, there's no indication that there was any other suspect. The one suspect that was involved in this incident, they were shot during the interaction, and they were transported to the hospital for treatment.
Mayor, does this validate the need for the National Guard here in D.C.?
What we know, Andrea, is that this is a targeted shooting. One individual who appeared to target these guardsmen, that individual has been taken into custody.
Mayor, can you tell us any more details on the condition of the two National Guardsmen and whether or not anyone else was injured? And a quick question follow-up for the FBI Director. You said that we'll make sure we find the perpetrators for this act. So just to clarify, the person believed to be responsible is in custody and there are no other suspects?
Sure, so I can start out. Again, Chief Carroll from MPD. So both of the individuals, the Guard members, they are in critical condition in a local hospital at this time being treated. At this point, we have no other suspects. We have reviewed video from the area. It appears, like I said, to be a lone gunman that raised the firearm and ambushed these members of the National Guard, and he was quickly taken into custody by other National Guard members and law enforcement members.
Have you got any sense of motive?
No, at this time, obviously, we're very in the preliminary stages of investigation. There's a lot of things, a lot of agents that are here from various federal agencies, law enforcement agencies. We have the full power of the FBI and our federal partners here in the task force. So we're looking at all those different aspects, but we don't have any motive.
Guardsmen armed, sir?
The National Guardsmen that were shot, I'm told they were armed.
Did they get off shots?
At this time, that's part of the preliminary investigation.
Do we know who shot the suspect?
Chief.
Sure. So how the suspect was apprehended, as I said, the individual, the suspect came around the corner. He immediately started firing a firearm at the two National Guard members. So at that time, there were other National Guard members that were in the area. They heard the gunfire. They actually were able to intervene and to kind of hold down the suspect after he had been shot on the ground until law enforcement got there within moments.
And he was shot by a National Guardsman?
At this point, we're still investigating exactly who shot the individual. It's not clear at this time.
Were there DC policemen in the area?
We don't know what kind of weapon. There was D.C. police. It happened right in front of the Metro, although there is no indication that the perpetrator was on the Metro. So there's Metro Transit Police in the area, and obviously being on 17th Street by the White House, Uniformed Division of Secret Service were in the immediate area as well.
What kind of weapon the alleged perpetrator used?
We do not know at this time. It's still under investigation.
We're going to be able to take a couple more.
Has been able to question the suspect, or is his condition so severe that you haven't been able to have a conversation?
Sure. Again, so as I said, we're very preliminary in the investigation, so we're looking into all aspects of who the individual is, his connections. At this time, he's still in the hospital receiving treatment.
And I would just like, hang on, I would just like to add, the reason that this suspect is in custody is because of the bravery of the men and women of the National Guard who responded due to their extensive training to secure American lives today. There was not any further injury and any further shootings. We should highlight the fact that the men and women of law enforcement, the interagency, the Department of War, and the National Guard executed their training with great precision today and prevented an even greater tragedy from befalling us. These National Guardsmen are heroes, and we must pray for their safety and their speedy recovery. And as the Chief said, We are in the preliminary stages of this investigation. We will run down every single lead, every piece of evidence. This is the power of the U.S. government at its best at the state, local, and federal level. That is why this interagency group is standing behind us to assure America and the world that we will continue to keep D.C. safe. And thankfully, we have Metropolitan Police Department, the National Guardsmen, and federal agents, and the Department of Justice and the Attorney General willing to prosecute the mission to keep Americans safe. And President Trump has rightly stated that this heinous act will be investigated, and he has thanked the National Guardsmen and women and the men and women of law enforcement.
Thank you.
Did the suspect say anything at the time? Why did the West Virginia governor say that they were Chief, was anyone else shot?
Okay. There you go. 2:15. It looks like it was an ambush, a targeted attack on those National Guard troops in Washington, D.C. FBI Director Kash Patel and Mayor Muriel Bowser. The suspect is in custody, but has not. They did not reveal any questioning that has been done. But again, it does look like this was a targeted attack. And please keep those two National Guardsmen in your prayers. And with all that's happening today, of course, it's important that the true meaning of Thanksgiving doesn't get lost in the shuffle and certainly all of the stress. And that's when faith really can draw us together with this season. And I want to joining me now. I want to bring in the Senior Director of Turning Point USA and author of the book, The Pagan Threat, Pastor Lucas Miles. Pastor Lucas, thank you so much for being here. It's a wonderful time of year, but it's one that places a lot of demands on people, makes it hard to feel the spirit of the season. We also have things like what happened today, and political violence and other things that are going on in our society that just have put people under such tremendous stress. Talk to us about how to deal with that so that people can, continue to support each other and people can continue to feel the spirit of this wonderful holiday season that we are beginning right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, thanks for having me on. All of us at TPUSA Faith, we want to just express to this nation, we understand that this is a time of turmoil. We see what we just saw here take place in D.C. We feel, the political charged divide that's across this country, cultural issues, there's international things. There's a lot of things happening with people on a personal level that they're facing. And all of this can be very overwhelming. This is why gratitude, I think, matters more than ever. Faith in Christ, getting back to the things that remind us that we're human, that keep us grounded, traditions with one another. This is what Charlie Kirk was really the message that he brought to this nation so vividly, and I think it's a message that we all need reminded of, especially right now, is that we have things to be grateful for. Gratitude protects us against entitlement. It protects us against divisiveness. It protects us against hatred towards one another. And so I just want to encourage the nation on this great holiday, Thanksgiving, that we return to gratitude, really remember our Creator, remember our purpose, get back to the Word of God, take your family to church this Sunday. There's a lot we still have to be thankful for.
Yeah, that perspective oftentimes gets lost in the chaos profiteering and the press and the dangerous ideologies that are being driven intentionally, I think, to make people very anxious. And you mentioned something so important. Gather your family around you and embrace your faith to help keep that proper perspective and keep your life properly ordered. I'll give you the last word. I've only got 30 seconds.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, this is if we're not doing it now, if you can't do it in the midst of the trials and the tragedies around you, it's when it matters most. And so I think that we have to come back to that. And so, look, there's good news out there. It's called the gospel of Jesus Christ. There's hope for the world. All the pain and the problems, we could focus on it all day long. It doesn't make them better. Focus on what is good, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely. Get in church this Sunday. It's going to do your soul a lot of good.
Pastor Lucas Miles, happy Thanksgiving to you. God bless.
Thank you, too.
Appreciate you being here. All right. Happy Thanksgiving, folks. The Chris Salcedo Show is up next. Appreciate you being with us and enjoy Turkey Day.